Hey, and welcome to Bible Talks, where we open the Word to hear God speak. Hey, and we're back in the book of Esther. I'm absolutely loving going through this book. I've always enjoyed studying it, and every time I go back to the story, some brand new thing pops up and encourages my heart. I'd love to hear what you've been meditating on, thinking through some of the discussions you've had in groups, or perhaps if you're studying this alone, then what are you thinking about and what are you taking away from this? I would love to hear from you. Write to me at pstjeremy@gmail.com or ask a question, or when you see it up on YouTube, then perhaps drop a line in the comments so that there's some interaction and engagement. I'd love to hear from you. And of course, I'm always available to pray for you. Let's dive into Esther chapter 3. Esther chapter 3. As always, I'd like to read the entire passage of scripture for you very slowly so that we can absorb the narrative and then get into the text. And I hope that you will allow for zero interruptions and you have a piece of paper and you're making notes while we go along. Here is Esther chapter 3. After these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman the Agagite, the son of Hammedatha, and advanced him, elevated him, promoted him, and set his throne above all the officials who were with him. And all the king's servants who were at the king's gates bowed down and paid homage to Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai did not bow down or pay homage. Then the king's servants who were at the king's gates said to Mordecai, "Why do you transgress the king's commandments?" And when they spoke to him day after day, and he would not listen to them, they told Haman in order to see whether Mordecai's words would stand, for he had told them that he was Jew. And when Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow down or pay homage to him, Haman was filled with fury. But he disdained to lay hands on Mordecai alone. So as they had made known to him the people of Mordecai, Haman sought to now destroy all the Jews, the people of Mordecai, throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast pur, that is, they cast lots, before Haman day after day. And they cast it month after month, till the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Then Haman said to the king Ahasuerus, "There is a certain people scattered abroad, dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of every other people, and they do not keep the king's laws, so that it is not to the king's profit to tolerate them. If it please the king, let it be decreed that they be destroyed. And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who have the charge of the king's business, that they may put it into the king's treasury." You get the money. So the king took a signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman the Agagite, the son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews. And king said to Haman, "The money is given to you, the people also, to do with them as it seems good to you." Then the king's scribes were summoned on the 13th day of the first month. An edict, according to all that Haman commanded, was written to the king's satraps, to the governors all over provinces, to the officials of all the peoples, to every province in its own script, every people in its own language. It was written in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed with the king's signet ring. Letters were sent by courier to all the king's provinces with instructions to destroy, to kill, to annihilate all the Jews, young and old, women and children, in one day, the 13th of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, to plunder their goods. A copy of the document was also issued as a decree in every province by the proclamation to all peoples to be ready for that day. The couriers went out hurriedly by the order of the king, and the decree was issued in Susa, the citadel, and the king and Haman sat down to drink by the city of Susa, as the city of Susa was thrown into confusion. Let me do that again. And the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa was thrown into confusion. Incredible, absolutely incredible. Let's break this down. Go back to chapter 3, verse 1. After these things, what had happened? Esther is now queen. Mordecai has uncovered a conspiracy to kill the king, a conspiracy to assassinate the king. The king's pretty thrilled about that. Mordecai has now greater access to the king's courts, to Esther, to the gates of the city where the council of leaders met, their parliament, so to speak. And he was now in and out of the big brass. He was talking to the people whose opinions mattered. He has now made it all the way up, very quietly, he's made it all the way up to the who's who of the kingdom. Now, in the middle of all of that, we have a guy called Haman who has been promoted above absolutely everything. And King Ahasuerus has done this. So Haman the Agagite, the son of Hammedatha, and had been advanced and his throne set above everybody else. The king is happy with him. The king wants to lavish, promotion and wealth on this one guy. And he gets him to a spot where he tells the whole kingdom, when he walks through your streets, when he passes you, I want you to stand up, I want you to bow, I want you to pay homage to him. I want you to give him all the honor and glory short of what you give to me. So all the king's servants who were at the king's gate bowed down and paid homage. Everything was working. People were listening to what they had to say, what was told to them to do. And every time Haman passed by, it thrilled his heart. Everybody was bowing. He was absolutely the man of the hour, and things were going great. But you have Mordecai, a man of conviction, a man of principle, a man who is part of God's people, the Jews. Mordecai did not bow down. He did not pay homage. Now, it is not within the Jewish rule of law or their conviction to bow before a man. The king's servants who were at the king's gate, who were friends with Mordecai and probably did coffee with him 100 times and knew him, they began to ask him and say, why do you transgress the king's commands? On what basis? See, just a few months ago, you were so loyal to the king that you saved the king's life and you uncovered an assassination plot. So we know that you're okay with the king. We know that you are loyal to the kingdom and to the king. Then why wouldn't you do what he's saying? On this count, why would you defy the king's orders? And they didn't just tell him once. This wasn't a weekend thing. This wasn't a couple of discussions. This was day after day. Look at verse 4. This was day after day. And when they spoke to him day after day, he would not listen to them. And then they told Haman, in order to see whether Mordecai's words would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew, and that is the reason why he would not bend, why he would not bow. And when Haman saw, and the next time Haman was coming around on his horse or whatever, and he saw that Mordecai did not bow, till now he hadn't noticed it. Everything was fine. But note this. When Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow down or pay homage to him, Haman was filled with fury. Was filled with fury. But instead of taking this one man out, because he says he did it or didn't do it because he's a Jew, I cannot take a chance on anybody else. If you're a man of principle and you're part of this people group, I'm going to have to deal with more and more. So I want to wipe you all out. That's one. The second thing is the hatred in this man's heart began to surface as this opportunity arose, when glory that was given to him, that was not his glory to start with, promotion that was given to him, that was not worthy of him to start with, the elevation that was given to him, that was not his to start with, was now defied by someone whose worship was not his to start with. The whole situation is made up. And out of this comes a world of hatred for the people group of the Jews. So he disdained to lay hands on Mordecai alone, so as they made known to him that the people of Mordecai were But he disdained to lay hands on Mordecai alone. So as they made known to him who Mordecai was and who his people was, now Haman's agenda was to wipe out all the Jews, the people of Mordecai. Not just Mordecai, but the people of Mordecai. Throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus. Clean it out. Born in his heart in that moment, because he did not get the glory. We talked about ego and men in the last chapter. Born in his heart was a genocide for an entire people. Verse 7. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, on the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast Pur, that is, they cast Lord. And I find this fascinating that idol worshippers like them sought through casting lots to find the right time for the stars to align or whatever they do in figuring this thing out. But they wanted the auspicious time to walk in to the king's court, to walk into the king's court and tell the king something that would be well favored. Maybe that's a hint for us to think about what is the way we walk into the presence of God, to the kingdom of God, up to the Lord's throne and offer our supplications and our prayers. With what thought? Look at them. In the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast Pur, that is lots, before Haman, day after day. And they cast it month after month, so it's day after day, then month after month, till the 12th month. Took them a whole year. That is the month of Adar. So in a year, this hatred is building up. This anti-Semitism is building up. And they are seething in their hatred. But they're waiting for the right time, because it matters. We got to do it in a way where it's not our hatred, but it comes down as a political, national agenda. It comes down as a king's command. How can we use the king, use his scepter, use his signet ring, use his authority to get done something that our hatred is actually wanting to accomplish? That's something to think about when we think about the use and abuse of power, the use and abuse of authority. Either our own authority or the ones above us. When we use unfair means and manipulate trusting people, especially authorities, to be able to get done, get in the way, get out of the way, the people we don't like, the people we hate, the people we are jealous of. This is human behavior, and it's human behavior at its worst. But here you have it in verse 8. Then Haman said to the king, and he's ready with his spiel. He's been rehearsing it for a year now. He says, this is what I have for you, sir. There is a certain people scattered abroad all over your kingdom. They've penetrated the entire kingdom. They're everywhere. And did you know that their laws are different to our laws? Did you know that they don't really keep the king's law quietly in their own way? They're actually bucking the king's authority. So we submit to you that it's not in your interest to even have them here. Now it's not Haman's hatred for the Jews, but the king's need for complete control. He's appealing from one ego to another. He's turning his heart against those people. And he says it is not in the king's profit to tolerate them. If it please the king, let it be decreed that they be destroyed. So first is the motive, and the second is the means. First they talked about it's not in your interest, it's not in your profit to tolerate them. But if this is going to cost you and you don't want to bear that cost, I will personally pay. Because who doesn't want that kind of satisfaction, right? Let me personally pay from my bank account to your bank account everything that's needed to wipe out these people. Wow. So that it is not to the king's profit to tolerate them, let it be decreed that they be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of the very people in charge of the king's business, that they may put it in the king's treasury. Not only will you get rid of a problem, but you'll get richer doing it. How about that, king? How about that? So the king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman the Agagite. Didn't ask, didn't check, didn't think about this decision, what it's going to unfold. He was swept up in the moment of ego, swept up in the praise, swept up in that moment of loyalty shown to him by these fake people, and he gives him his signet ring to do in his authority anything he wishes to do. Verse 10. So the king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman the Agagite, the son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews. His identity is now and profile is now being expanded as one who hates the Jews. And the king said to Haman, the money is given to you, the people also, to do with it as seems good to you. Then the king's scribes were summoned on the 13th day of the first month, and an edict, according to all that Haman had commanded, was written to the king's satraps and to the governors over all the provinces, to the officials. You get the picture? There wasn't a single district that was left out, wasn't a single language that was left out, wasn't a single people group that was left out, and everything went using the king's email system, using the king's communication system. I mean, it came with the authority of the king, in the language of the king, on the paper of the king, with the signet seal of the king. You got to take notice of this. You cannot miss this. So that when it happens, it didn't happen because Haman hates the Jews. It happened because King Ahasuerus doesn't want a threat to the kingdom. He doesn't want any anti-nationalism. Letters were sent by courier to the king's provinces to destroy, to kill, to annihilate. To destroy, to king, to annihilate. All the Jews, young and old, women and children, in one day, the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. Don't leave a single stone unturned. And if there's any inconspicuousy about the communication, verse 14, a copy of the document was to be issued as a decree in every province, so that the proclamation of the people was ready for that day. Right up, you could hold up the copy and say, this is being done legally. This is being done legally. We've sent in the bulldozers legally. In the name of the law, in the name of the king. The couriers were out hurriedly by the order of the king. The decree was issued in Susa, the citadel, and the king and Haman, the king and Haman sat down to drink. But the city of Susa was thrown into confusion. Two men, one exalting the other, each one patting each other on the back, each one feeding each other's egos. Friendships you should not have. Other men who are wrong for you. Other people who are wrong for you. One driven by ego, another driven by hatred. Put those two together and put power in their hands and put money in their hands. And you got a disaster waiting to happen. And all of the city of Susa were thrown into confusion. We're talking people who had grown up together. We're talking people who are doing business together. And suddenly they realize perhaps 1/3 of the kingdom, perhaps their clients, perhaps their owners, perhaps their bosses were now going to be taken out. What's going to happen? But the tragedy of it is that these two fellows sit down to drink while the city is thrown into confusion. As if it was accomplishment. Brother, to success, to safety, to nationalism. I could go on about picking friends, but I'd love for you to discuss that and talk about that. I'd like you to discuss, if you have the opportunity and if you're in a forum to discuss with others, what are the ways men make foolish, stupid, unwise decisions that, number one, are driven by either sentiment, hatred, or ego. Number two, the decisions that affect so many people around them, their loved ones. Because we're going to go into chapter 4, and King Ahasuerus is going to find out that Esther is a Jew. You know the story. King Ahasuerus is going to find out that Esther is a Jew. And suddenly, the whole thing's going to be a disaster. All because one was swept away by ego and the other one was drowning in hatred. What are some of the decisions and ways we make decisions without doing the background check, without giving it time, without allowing for our decisions to cook, to stew, to simmer a little, our thoughts, our plans to simmer a little, so that we ask ourselves, I'm going to make this decision. How many people are going to be affected by it? You live in a world, mostly you're taught that you are the greatest decision maker of your life. You're the one who decides for your life, who you marry, what your gender is, what your life's going to be about, what you're going to do with your life, what you're going to do with your body, what you're going to do with your career, your time, your money. Everything is you, and you get to decide. As if there are no repercussions and no ripple effects on the people around you. As if to say that the decisions you make don't affect others, especially when you are already a person of power, person of authority, person of wealth, person of affluence, person of influence. You could be a very influential person by the fact that you just have a lot of followers on Instagram. But that doesn't make you immune to the decisions you make, the things you say, and the influence you wield. Here are foolish men, powerful men, but foolish men, who did what they want and then sat down for a drink. Neither of them saw what was coming. But of course, the story of Esther tells us the truth. It's in the Bible because that's the truth. That's what happened. That's what broken people are like. That's what broken men are like. And that's how foolish, egotistical men make foolish, prideful decisions that affect their children and their children's children for years to come. I'd love for you to discuss this, take it apart, beat these two guys up, and ask, what are the reasons, motives, and ways that these men went about making their decisions? And what was the blindsightedness in their decision? You, well knowing the book of Esther, chapter 2 as well as chapter 4, what were some of the things that you could take away? And then how does it affect our lives? And is there anything that we perhaps need to take a hard look at? Are we the type of people that says, my decision, I have the power to do it, I'm going to do it, nobody can tell me what not to do, etc., etc.? Or do you take the responsibility with grave seriousness that God has given you wealth, He's given you influence, He's given you a position, and there are people who will be affected by my decisions? Let me think, let me pray, let me seek the Lord. I trust that you will take this seriously, take the discussion itself seriously, because you could finish this up in 5 minutes and get on your way. But I really, truly hope that you will allow for the book of Esther to unpack itself and allow for the Holy Spirit to take you to a place where you understand that you are the summation of a lot of bad decisions that were made in the past. And as you think back to your parents, as you think back to people, think back to people who had influence, you gave them influence in your life, you allowed them into your life because you trusted them or whatever, and you perhaps you wanted something out of it. And today, you're not better off for it. Today, you're struggling with the ripple effects of that decision. Will you be the same? Will you take those things seriously? Okay, there's some fun aspects of this that you could take and discuss it, but there's also some very grave and responsible aspects of it that I'd like you to make some points on. And as usual, I would love to hear from you if you can communicate with me through email or leave a comment in the comment section. Have a wonderful discussion and let the Word of God do its thing in your life.